All right, we are live on Facebook talking about, do you wish your kids would just take your advice? This was kind of the topic, I think, on Monday, during our call, is there just seemed to be this desire for moms and dads to want their kids to want their advice. And it's really irritating, I think, when we have so much to share. We have so much learned, experience and wisdom, and we want to pass it down to our kids and let them have the benefit of our knowledge and insight that we've attained sometimes, because of like grueling circumstances. And our kids see it as a lecture, meddling, and they kind of do this. No, 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 no. And so, what about your kids, Lauren? Do your kids do that?
No, actually. No, they're actually pretty good, I will say. Well, I mean, I would have to say Kate is probably the most like, no, I don't want to talk to you. But, I was thinking about this because, I think they're actually quite good. I think it goes down to what kind of relationship you've established with them over the years. And I also think it's this way of approaching it in a sense too. I think number one, if your relationship is founded in the resentment flows that we talk about frequently, and you have an autonomous kid who's just going to say no to everything regardless, you're just going to get that. They're not going to take anything. And it's not to say your advice wouldn't be helpful or that they wouldn't be, they're just not open to it based on the relationship that you've been in. I think that's one issue in which your kids won't take your necessarily advice. And then the other thing is that it's like it's seen as a major roadblock, right, to communication when you're just trying to fix something or trying to, regardless of, obviously the intent is good, there's no question. And the intent is good, based on your experiences, and sometimes you can just see the train wreck coming, right? So you want to protect your kid. I think there's just so many different layers to this. So, it's just a massive roadblock if the person's not asking for advice, right? So it's like, do you want me to just listen, or do you want me to help ask for advice? And in the circumstances we talked about on Monday, it was, they don't want it. But I think that there's that underlying resentment flow too, or the sense of being controlled, or like, this just pushback of lack of, if you have, certain people don't want to be told what to do, right? And kids are no different. So it's just this sense of how you approach it and how you speak about it. It's going to make such a world of difference, because if you come at it as like, well, I know what's best and I know how to do this, people are going to, and regardless whether this is an adult to kid relationship, is this sense of, you don't trust me to make the right decision. You don't have trust in me that I can make the right decision, or that I can ask for help. And yeah, in a lot of circumstances, a lot of children may not developmentally be ready and understand those things yet either. But that is like kind of an underlying thing of creating this. It's also creating this codependency with your children too. Like, oh, well, I don't trust that you can make the right decision, so you have to be dependent on me to give you the best advice and direct you. And so it's really layered. And in one example, I'll just say, like, I just had this amazing conversation with Luke a few weeks ago, because he's hurt his knee, and I wanted him to start doing some strength training in CrossFit, obviously, which I do and I feel strongly about. And he hated it. He would just be in tears. And so we sat down and had this conversation. And if I came at it as like, well, this is what you have to do, or this is the best thing based on my experience, and I know, he would have shut off in a sense. And instead I was like, I said, just tell me what's going on for you. You know, what do you want out of this? How do you want to get your knee pain better? What do you think you need to do about this? Right. And so we just went through the whole discussion of like, he wants to get stronger. He wants his knee pain to go away. And, you know, but the class that he was at, he wasn't enjoying. And so was I going to just make, you know, so we had this really, really great conversation. So, you know, I said, in my opinion, the only way I can see this, you know, you getting out of your knee pain and building strength is to, you know, is to do something like CrossFit. And I don't know how else to do it except to bring you. So anyways, we came to a solution, which would be that he switched over to my gym because he was at a different gym, and then that I would train him. Well, he came to the first class and he just loved it. It was the environment. It was actually the environment of the gym. And I think the fact that I was there and that I could train him also personally. So it just, you know, it was like, yeah, of course I knew what was best. And based on my
Sure, you know, how to get your
how do you
mommy
get
instincts, right?
But how do you get there in a good, like, how do you get there in a good way without this, you know, it's just having the conversation. And, you know, and then of course I don't have that resentment flow with Luke, right? So he feels comfortable to sit there and shed the tears and tell me how he's feeling, and that he, you know, so it was that. And then he's willing, once he's heard from his perspective, then he's willing to hear me from my perspective. I think that just helps. So
Absolutely.
I think it's a very layered, you know, and it really depends on the relationship, and it's just a very layered thing. But I think one is having the relationship where it's not resentment, and then also the way you approach the conversation, and not trying to be the fixer, I think, and allowing them to, and even talking through options about whatever the issue is.
So yeah, I was just thinking about this relative to quite a few people recently have said things to me like, you know, my kids are like Clint Eastwood, you know, they don't open up, they never share anything, and all this kind of stuff. And I've heard the Clint Eastwood story so many times over the years. And I was thinking about it. I actually did an episode on the Daily Flash the other day regarding this aspect of, you know, should you spy on your kids? And it's connected. So I was saying then that, you know, when we think about wanting to spy on our kids, you know, where does that urge come from? And the urge comes from this idea that we're worried about them, or we're seeing something that we're not comfortable with, and maybe they're with a group of friends that rub us the wrong way, or they're just being distant. And the point that I want to make is that when it comes to routine disclosure and what we want our kids to routinely disclose to us versus their being allowed to have things that they don't have to share with us, that they can keep private in their private world, and what those two are is what needs to be really honed in. We have to have that explicit conversation about what are those things that are the routine disclosure stuff that we feel like we need to know to do like our parenting well. Yeah, and what are the things that our kids, the safety stuff. And what are the things that they can keep to themselves and are private? And once we reach the agreement, you have to demonstrate, moms and dads, that you're trustworthy. And then if they do disclose, that you don't jump in, want to solve it, want to fix it, want to moralize, want to diagnose, want to do any of those things that get in the way of open communication. Because the minute you do that, you're going to get fired. And they're going to just decide, I can't trust you. And I mentioned the other day that, you know, I remember distinctly Pia would say things to me because I wanted to go in and fix things. I'd listen to a problem and I wanted to go in and fix. And she was like, Mom, if you do that, then I will never talk to you about my stuff again. So it was that, like, she had a strong boundary. Like, I will share my life with you if I know that you're a sounding board and will listen and are not the kind of person who wants to get involved, a little busybody, a person who wants to take over my problems, who won't just let me be.
Yeah.
So that's one of the main things. And I think you talked about it, is that, you can have that sense of, I know I have something to say here. I know it'll be valuable, but you have to be invited.
Yes.
And you establish that through trust. And you establish that by not violating and overstepping your boundaries that have been established around routine disclosure versus what they're allowed to keep to themselves. And then you can't go crazy when they share things that are like, you get to maintain your calm, take a deep breath, maintain the space where you're safe for them to disclose. And then they will continue to do that. And you may find that you're slammed after they get done sharing their lives.
Yeah.
And you need to go meditate, go for a walk, just really take care of you. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. I mean, I say that to friends. If you're yelling at them and getting upset about them about small things, they're never going to come to you with the big things.
Exactly. Yeah. It has to be that safe space.
Take the breaths. Yeah.
So true. All right. Well, this is our Tuesday tips on Thursday. So every week we're just, we're getting pretty creative about Tuesday tips pretty much any day of the week. But it does kind of crack me up. So have a great day, everybody. And if you missed it live, please go ahead and pop your comments or your concerns into the chat box, and we'll be able to come back to you either next week live, or we can give you comments in the chat. Hope you're having a great day. Bye, Lauren. Thanks.